maybe this can be an example of where we will. I am absolutely willing to give it a shot. With that, I want to yield to Mr. Schmidt, 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank our witnesses and thank my colleagues for what I think has been a genuine exchange of points of view today. I've heard a passion on this committee today that I've not always heard as I've served in the last 5 months, and I'm actually grateful for that. And I will tell you, Mr. Chairman, as I've heard the most recent discussion here, a particular individual came to mind. This is an issue that's connected to my state. There was a fellow who was from North Carolina a number of years ago. He had moved to southern Missouri. He had in years past been a member of the White Patriot Party. He then became a member of the Democratic Party. He then became a member of the Republican Party. He then re-registered as an independent, and on the eve of Passover in 2014, he drove from southern Missouri across the state line into Kansas, went to the Jewish Community Center in Overland Park, Kansas, with the intent of killing Jewish people, and shot and killed 3 people who were present, Frazier Glenn Cross or Glenn Miller. He went by both, and he ultimately died in prison in the state of Kansas. So I realize that's not precisely on point, but I would use that case to underscore this exchange that I've just heard among my colleagues of goodwill, that there is nothing partisan about this on either side of the ledger. We also just had a very recent case that touched our state of Kansas. Sarah Milgram, who was one of the 2 young people who was murdered here on the streets of Washington just last month, was a young Kansan. She was raised in the greater Kansas City area as an alumna of my alma mater at the University of Kansas. And so we've all been touched in our own ways, and certainly these are fresh wounds for us in the great state of Kansas. So I'd like to explore an idea with any of our witnesses, but I'm going to start with Mr. Schneider. I mean, as we've heard the discussion today, the prepared testimony, the back and forth, the questioning, it does seem to me that there is an awfully lot of general agreement that we have, for Mr. Schneider's testimony, we have out there, both in some of the legacy media, but also he mentioned Wikipedia and some of the online sources. We have folks whipping things up, either with a specific intent to cause ill action or otherwise. And it becomes difficult when we start talking about what government can do in response, what type of state action may be permissible to respond to even the most atrocious and heinous discussion, whether it's online or otherwise. And I guess I would just ask Mr. Schneider, you've obviously given this area a great deal of thought. Are there things in our current sort of architecture of the First Amendment, either as the courts have interpreted it or as we've advocated it, that we ought to be focused on, concerned about, boundaries? Is the architecture suitable for us to do some things in this space?
Congressman, that's an excellent question, and it actually gets to what Congresswoman Crockett was getting to as well. Net Choice, before the U.S. Supreme Court last year, arguing on behalf of these big tech platforms, literally argued essentially a resurrection of an even worse version of the Plessy versus Ferguson standard of separate but equal. These big tech platforms literally are arguing that they have a First Amendment right to discriminate against anybody for any reason. That they have a right to discriminate against somebody if they're black, if they're Jewish, or for political speech. This is a dire threat that these platforms think that they are above the law, that they can discriminate for any reason whatsoever, and they are. We're seeing Jews getting kicked out of Uber cabs, and Uber, Lyft, these rideshare companies, they are in fact big tech platforms. We're seeing people of faith whose accounts are being shut down in the name of big tech claiming that they've got the right to discriminate based on faith. This is one place where Congress can explore, investigate, and push back on big tech. These are common carriers. They should not be allowed to discriminate. The state of Texas is doing good work here. Others are too. Maybe you and Congresswoman Crockett could work together to address this real problem.
Appreciate it, Mr. Schneider. And Ms. Cooper, in the time we have left, you talked a bit about threats. Can you tell us what type of online threats we're most commonly seeing against the Jewish community? And I ask the question against the backdrop of, you know, in terms of the judicial interpretation of the First Amendment, the speech clause, we've generally seen true threats and incitement as probably the most applicable exceptions to. What are we seeing and how do they fit?
every time, aside from like planned events, incidents, et cetera, whenever something big happens, like for example, what's happening right now with Iran, I can give you like a few examples. You see the groups, the most virulent, rabid anti-Semitic groups who are posting things that incite violence, murder, more. So right now in the last few days after, initially just a few days ago with Iran, the Palestinian youth movement, you need to investigate them. They're a scary group. They posted, under the guise of like immigration also, they posted, "We will win." And these are just like little snippets that I took. Then they, National NJP posted, "Death to occupation." They also posted in a separate post, "The empire will fall from Gaza to Tehran." And then they wrote, "The unprovoked attacks against the U.S., the unprovoked attacks by the U.S. and the Zionist army have launched against Iran provide one thing: imperialism in the region will not stop at suffocating
The
Palestine."
lady's time has expired. Sorry. I recognize the gentleman, the